Welcome back. Now the 2024 national elections are upon us. And this year's elections will be like no other. This as independent candidates get to contest for seats in the National Assembly and provincial legislature for the first time in history. Professor Samuel Koma, governance expert from the University of Limpopo, joins us now to rate the chances of independent candidates at the polls. Thank you so much for your time, Sam. Now, independent candidates will be putting their names forward for the national elections. How much of a game changer is this, and what has actually the journey looked like getting to this inclusion?
Yes, Zinati, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, so you're quite right. This will be unprecedented because since 1994, the voting behavior that has been established in South Africa is that of voters being associated with party identity. So majority of voters in South Africa since 1994 identify with parties. Now, this time around, for the first time, we now have participation of independent candidates that are entering the election scene. They are faced with a mammoth task in the sense that they have to work hard to sell their ideas and also reach out to potential voters. The other key question that also needs to be answered is, in South Africa, is there voter appetite for independent candidates? So the election results of 2024 will give us an indication if independent candidates will be able to tap into the support and voter base of established political parties. Bearing in mind that in 2019, we had about 678 political parties that participated in the national elections, but only 15 gained representation in the National Assembly. So you have about more than 80% of those parties that did not make the cut. So that tells you the challenge and significance of contesting national elections. You need resources, you need infrastructure, and also the question, I think, for voters would be, what is unique about independent candidates? What is the differentiator they are bringing to the fore compared to political parties?
And actually talking about that voter appetite, has there been enough of an effort made to create awareness among the voters that there are these independent candidates that are contesting the elections?
Yes, so we'll only get an indication sometime next week or in the next couple of weeks once the IEC publishes the list of all the candidates drawn from party lists and those who are contesting as independent candidates. But it should be also stated that at the moment, only political parties seem to be ahead of the game because they've launched their manifestos, they've reached out to their core constituency or support base in terms of articulating their key priorities, promises that are part of what is packaged in on their manifesto. So in the context of independent candidates, we have not seen much movement, and it's quite concerning. Bearing also in mind that it's up to independent candidates to reach out to voters, not the other way around. It's like running a business. As a business owner, you need to sell your products to your potential customers, not the other way around.
Well, talking about the tasks that these independent candidates have to complete, let's talk about thresholds. What thresholds do they have to meet to comply with in order to get representation in Parliament? And is the weighting the same looking at independent candidates versus political parties?
Yes, the judgment of the Constitutional Court has affirmed that this is a competition that is equal to all the players. And that is the reason for the first time voters will now be given 3 ballots or ballot papers. The first ballot is for the 200 because the composition of the National Assembly is 350 to 400. So the first half will be allocated to parties contesting or participating in the National Assembly. The second ballot is what they call a regional ballot. This is where parties or independent candidates who will come into play.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we'll have equal participation of both independent candidates and also political parties. And of course, the turnout and also the votes that get cast for all these key role players or political players, at the end of the day, it should result into proportional representation. So it will be interesting on how independent candidates will perform at the end of the day. But they're equal players playing the same game with the same rules for all the players.
Well, talking about a game, because politics is like chess, it's quite complicated. And I'm actually wondering, what you've gauged in terms of the willingness from the population for people to participate as independent candidates. And I mean, could this open up the door to frivolous participation?
Yes, you're right, Zinat. So the best gauge for this is that if you look at municipal elections, this is where we tend to see participation of a bigger chunk of councillor candidates contesting as independent candidates. But it has been proven over time that they tend not to do well. The only candidates who contest as independent candidates and win, for example, the wards, would be candidates who are drawn from the dominant parties, but they've resigned or they were expelled. They are known, and also they can connect with the wards that were part of their representation from those political parties. So where also independent candidates do well is in countries or regimes where they have presidential system. So in our case, we have a parliamentary system, but if you take countries like Zambia, the DRC, where they allow presidential race, independent candidates tend to do well.
All right. Let's talk about party funding, because, of course, one of the things that they have to comply with, you spoke about resources, and that's money. When it comes to political funding, are they also included in the pool of funds that the IEC administers?
Yes, so once we see the results pronounced by the IEC, giving us a sense how many independent candidates will now be represented in the National Assembly, they will be afforded an opportunity and also the benefit of also receiving what they call political party funds or funding, just like the rest of the other 15 parties that currently are represented in Parliament. So they will also have the benefit of being allocated the funds. But at the moment, they have to go all out and mobilize these resources on their own. And of course, as I said, find a way to sell their manifestos, their political ideas to a targeted voter base.
All right, Sam, we've got about 30 seconds. Just leading up to this, have the rules and requirements for independent candidates been fair, or are there still issues that the independent candidates are not settled about, where we could have more negotiations?
Yes, you're right. So remember, before the Constitutional Court ruling or judgment, the bar was set very high for participation of independent candidates. So now we know that the only requirement is the 1,000 signatures for independent candidates contesting to be part of the National Assembly or the regional ballot and also provincial legislature. And I think once the IEC publishes the list of independent candidates, including party list, we'll get a sense of how many independent candidates have made the cut in terms of participating in the elections.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and for enlightening us on that. Of course, a topic that is new to us all at this point. Appreciate it. That was Professor Samuel Koma, governance expert from the University of Limpopo.